This video is probably going to be polarizing. Talking about the left versus the right. Politically, everyone says they're trying to do what's best for the people of their country, like politicians-wise. But if you look at how they go about that, you can tell whether that's true or not. The right has been shifting right, and the left hasn't really had representation since I've become politically aware. And this is true in Canada and the United States as well. The left is generally against capitalism, and we don't have any major political parties in either country saying we shouldn't do capitalism. We should do something else. So politically, there really is no left, or at least not a left that has any power. They all say they want to make a better country for all residents. But if you look at how they go about that, you can tell what their goals really are, because the left generally comes from a place supported by evidence, and the right comes from a place of ideology. If you look at the climate, the right denied that climate change was happening, and if you go all the way further right, there are still people that do that. Climate denial doesn't look like denying that climate change is happening. It's denying the seriousness of it, denying how much we can do about it, placing the importance of short-term economic gain over not just, and this is an example of the right not following evidence and being short-term thinkers. Dealing with climate change would be better economically down the line. It's just not as good now. But the scientific evidence is overwhelming and has been for a long time. And the right isn't dealing with it, or isn't dealing with it enough. And the center isn't either. If you look at economics, the right tends to tout itself as whatever party it is, the party of fiscal responsibility. But even then, it tends to be short-term fiscal responsibility. Because if you look at the climate, that's going to cost more money than our economic system can support in the long run. But again, it's short-term. They offer short-term solutions when a long-term solution would be more responsible financially. A strong social safety net is good financially for a country because people don't get sick as much and can keep working. It doesn't cost as much on the healthcare system if you have better healthcare, or preventative rather than reactionary. Fewer people in poverty means fewer healthcare costs. Lower healthcare costs? One of the two. It means lower crime, so you don't have to spend as much on policing. Speaking of crime, the right tends to have a tough-on-crime stance, a police and punishment-heavy approach to crime rather than reformation and prevention. The jail systems are not good for reducing repeat offenders. A less punitive and more reformatory prison system helps people stay out of jail. Mental health supports help reduce crime. Reduction of poverty helps reduce crime. You're not going to go steal things if you have the money to buy them. This leads to the why. Because it is ideological. Well, it's not. It's not ideological. It's because it's greed. They want to support a system that their donors benefit from, that the people don't, the average everyday person. And I'm not just talking poor people. I'm talking anyone who isn't rich. And they push this through ideology, through fear. Immigration is generally good for a country, but they push this idea that these lies that immigrants are bad for the economy, that they're a drain on resources, and that they commit more crimes than citizens born in a country, which is just not true. Gender is a big one right now. Gender non-conforming people are a huge scapegoat. They're pushing this idea that it's a binary when scientifically it's not. Like, oh, in nature it's all male and female and it's all set and fixed. And it's not. And then they talk about our genes. They're just outright lies. They lie to people. And it's the same playbook they've been using forever. They demonize the other, the people who are not like their base. Whether it's a different skin color, different sexual orientation, different gender identity, different religion. They use what they can to make you scared so that you will vote for them, and they continue these agendas that do not work for you. I don't think there's any rich people watching this video, so I'm pretty confident in saying that it doesn't work for you. It certainly doesn't work for me. I'm talking about not politicians who say they're left or say they're right, but like what their actions, what their policies state. In Canada, you've got like liberals are like our Democrats and conservatives are like our Republicans. And neither liberals nor Democrats are actually left. In the States, everything's a little bit shifted to the right. The liberals are center at best, center, I would say more center right. So when I say that they're pushing these lies, I include the liberals in that. The NDP is center left at best, though the right likes to tout them as this crazy super leftist party that's going to destroy the country. Tax and spend. But tax and spend, when you look at the results, is actually a good thing when the government spends it properly. And by properly, I mean in a way that benefits the taxpayers. And leftist parties are historically better at that. Trickle-down economics has been proven to not work for the vast majority of people. Austerity does not work. They push this, we have to balance the budget, but they're not good at that either. You look historically, again, at the evidence, and right-wing parties are not good at balancing budgets. They cut spending to make it look like that's what they're trying to do. Usually it's cut spending so that they make it look like government can't do things and they have to privatize. And you don't have to look far or hard to see that privatization of things that should be public, like things that really should be public, prison systems, healthcare especially, doesn't work. The US has the biggest prison population in the world. Their healthcare is atrocious unless you're rich. You can die because you don't have enough money. That's absurd. I get that that's their game plan. When you really realize what they're going for, what their true goal is, to make money for themselves and their donors, their owners, it's not hard to understand. So it really comes down to empathy versus selfishness. And I'm not saying that the people who vote conservative, people who consider themselves conservatives, aren't empathetic people. They're not seeing through the lies of the politicians. And that's why you see more intractability on the right than on the left. And it certainly happens on the left. People who aren't willing to listen, who aren't willing to change their minds. It happens all over the place. But if you look at the percentage of people who are willing to learn and change like we're supposed to, there's just more on the left. Again, the actual left, not the parties that call themselves leftists. I don't even know if they call themselves leftists. Who people think of as left. We talk about echo chambers, and yes, people get into echo chambers, and that's facilitated by social media algorithms. Like, I'm not gonna go watch Fox News to get the right's take on things. I'm not gonna listen to Rebel Media because I know they're dishonest. The mainstream media is like center-right, generally. You get stories once in a while that push ideas that are a little more leftist, but the CBC, CTV, CNN, MSNBC, any big corporate news is center-right with the occasional leftist idea. Because they're corporate. And corporations want to support capitalism because it keeps them rich. This idea of every person for themselves, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work hard and you'll make it. is one of the more dangerous ideas that the right likes to tout. And one of the big differences, people on the left tend to realize that that's not how things work. Yes, everyone has to work individually, take care of themselves to a certain extent, but that has to come in concert with taking care of your community, taking care of others around you. In society, like in nature, the most successful people and species are the ones who are able to work together. And that's my synopsis of the right and the left. What do you think? If you agree or disagree, hit me up in the comments. The end.